All right, let's jump right in. If you thought you knew cybersecurity, well, 2025 was the year that completely rewrote the rulebook. We're not just talking about the usual data breaches anymore. No, we're talking about huge, fundamental shifts that redefined the entire digital landscape.
You really couldn't escape it in 2025, right? Cybersecurity was the headline, day in and day out. It was this perfect storm of AI getting weaponized, attacks striking at the very heart of our digital infrastructure, and a security industry just trying to keep its head above water. The entire field had to evolve basically in real time. So that's the big picture. But what were the moments, the trends that really defined this kind of crazy year? That's what we're going to dive into. Let's break down the stories that really shaped what's coming next.
First up, and this is a big one, artificial intelligence. In 2025, AI stopped being this futuristic buzzword and became a very real, very active battleground for cyber attacks. It was this classic double-edged sword, you know? The line between a super helpful tool and a seriously dangerous weapon just evaporated. And here is a perfect and kind of scary example of how nuts it got. You had Grok 4, this brand new, super advanced AI, and get this, it was jailbroken just 2 days after it launched. 2 days! And the researchers didn't just smash down the door. No, this was way more clever. They used a two-step attack. First, an echo chamber to kind of get the AI hyper-focused on one idea. Then they hit it with a Crescendo technique to ramp up the request and just blow right past its safety filters. The result? The AI gave them step-by-step instructions for making a Molotov cocktail. It's stunning and, frankly, a bit terrifying. It just goes to show how difficult securing these powerful new models really is. This leads us right into another AI-driven threat, a new attack called Slopsquatting. It's a clever one. Imagine you're a developer asking an AI for coding help, and it confidently recommends a software package that doesn't actually exist. It's a hallucination. Well, attackers are watching for these hallucinations, and when they see one, they create malicious code with that exact fake name, setting a trap for the next developer who gets that same bad advice. So you might be wondering, how big of a problem is this, really? Well, researchers tested 16 different large language models, and what they found was kind of shocking. On average, 20%, a full 1/5 of the software packages they recommended were completely made up. They just didn't exist. That creates this massive, fertile ground for these slop-squatting attacks to work. Okay, so AI was obviously a huge part of the story, but it wasn't all about brand new threats. In 2025, we also saw attackers get really creative, updating classic techniques to outsmart modern defenses. Let's talk about phishing for a second. We've all gotten those emails, and for years our security filters have gotten pretty good at spotting malicious links. So what did attackers do? They pivoted to quishing. Instead of a link, they embed a QR code in the email. Now to the security scanner, that's just an image. It looks totally harmless, so it sails right through. But when you scan it with your phone, boom, you're taken directly to a malicious site. It's a really clever, low-tech way to beat a high-tech defense. And the scale of attacks just got massive. There was this criminal network in Turkey that infected thousands of devices all over the world. We're talking everything from smart fridges to old routers you forgot you even had. They turned this army of gadgets into a giant proxy for rent service, letting other criminals pay to use your devices for anonymous attacks, like data theft. Now, law enforcement did disrupt the network, but the core problem, all those vulnerable devices, they're all still out there online. And this leads us to an even more alarming trend. The attacks started shifting away from just targeting users and started going after the very infrastructure designed to protect us. The digital fortresses we all rely on, well, they started to show some pretty serious cracks. Early in the year, the whole industry got a major wake-up call from Fortinet, a huge provider of firewalls. They had to announce that a critical flaw in their systems wasn't just a theoretical risk. No, it was already being actively exploited by attackers out in the wild. The fallout from that was just staggering. A new hacking group jumped all over these vulnerable systems, and in the end, they managed to compromise some 15,000 devices. And what did they get from those 15,000 firewalls? This wasn't just random data. The hacking group, which called itself the Beltson Group, leaked the absolute keys to the kingdom. We're talking VPN credentials, administrator usernames, some in plain text, security certificates, and the very rules that tell the firewalls how to work. It was a devastating breach of trust in the very tools meant to keep us all safe. But look,
the story of 2025 isn't just about the attacks. It's not all doom and gloom. It's also about how the cybersecurity community fought back. So let's take a look at how the industry adapted and responded to all this. Here's a fantastic example of the community in action. An attacker compromises a developer's account on the NPM code repository and slips in a malicious crypto clipper, which is designed to steal cryptocurrency during transactions. But look at this response time. Within 2 hours, the open source community spotted it and raised the alarm. Just 4 hours after the attack started, the threat was completely neutralized. That is an incredible display of collaborative defense. The industry also got smarter about where to focus its energy. The U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, introduced a new metric called LLV. Instead of just rating how bad a flaw could be, it uses statistics to estimate the likelihood that a vulnerability is already being exploited. This is a huge help for defenders, letting them focus on putting out the fires that are actually burning right now. And to try and get ahead of the next wave of AI threats, industry bodies like OWASP release new security guides. And this wasn't for simple chatbots, this was for agentic AI, autonomous systems that can use tools and act on their own without a human prompt. The whole goal is to build security in from the very beginning, before these powerful agents can be turned into automated weapons. But the industry's evolution wasn't without some conflict. We saw a major shakeup in how security products are tested. 3 of the biggest vendors out there, Microsoft, SentinelOne, and Palo Alto Networks, all pulled out of the really influential MITRE ATT&CK Evaluations. They argued the tests had just become too complex and felt more like a marketing exercise than a real measure of security. This kicked off a major debate inside the industry about how to best measure what actually works. So when you put it all together, what you saw in 2025 was an industry in flux. It was grappling with the power of its own new tools. It was questioning its own standards. And it was racing to understand threats that were emerging faster than ever before. And that leaves us with one final critical question. When you look at this incredible pace of change, from AI jailbreaks to autonomous agents, you have to ask yourself, in this relentless race between attack and defense, is all this innovation our greatest weapon, or is it actually becoming our biggest vulnerability?